Hi there, everybody. Okay, this week's lab is called the Freestyle GIS Lab. It's designed to help you let go of instructions and just let you do your own thing, make your own map. We want you to go get some vector data. Vector data, points, lines, polygons. I'm going to show you a couple places that you can find some good data. And then the goal is just to focus your map on a clear message, create a title that unifies with the symbology, keep it simple, and just dial in your map presentation and your cartography to tell your map story, and just play and have fun. So chase down some passion, create a treasure map, route your next road trip. We don't care what it is. We want you to use points, lines, and polygons and just make us an awesome map. Okay, so the instructions should be pretty clear. Let's talk about how you get some data. This is what I do. Free GIS data. And then there are lots of options. This is kind of a new and good resource that has just a really well organized list of data organized by topic. But just remember, we want you to focus on points, lines, and polygons. No raster data. So avoid elevation. The climate data is sometimes kind of a gridded raster format, so you're going to have to be a little bit careful, but this is a really well organized place to start. The other one that you definitely should be familiar with is the Utah AGRC, and the first thing that comes up is usually data, but just get in here. It's the Automated Geographic Reference Center, which is basically a hub for geographic data for the state of Utah. Again, it's beautifully organized. If you scroll down on the data page, you'll see the different data categories. And when we talk about points, lines, and polygons, we can just go in here and you can read about the data here. So there's boundaries, enterprise zones does, kind of imply that it's probably polygons. If you aren't sure, you can click in here and it'll tell you exactly what kind of data it is, where it came from, what kind of attributes you might be dealing with. It gives you a preview of what the data is. Now remember, if these are polygons, there's probably an attribute table that explains what each one of these shapes is, and that's going to be the interesting thing. What this shows you is the spatial distribution of the data. But it's super easy to use. There's basically usually a big download this data button, and it's going to come at you in a zipped file just like you're used to dealing with. Okay, so let's just take a look at some of these. Bioscience usually has habitat data for animals. 911 are probably the 911 boundaries. Demographic is going to give you some census data, very basic census data for the state. Again, avoid the elevation stuff. We haven't worked with rasters yet, and I want to keep it, straightforward for you guys and not kind of open a can of worms that you're not prepared to deal with. But dig around in here. You might download 10 different data sets before you're really inspired by something. And then remember that you can also make your own data. So we had the digitizing lab where you drew your own points, lines, and polygons. So you can go in and just create your own data if you want to. Okay, so here are the details in the lab. The instructions are fairly short, just kind of walking through how you get data. What do we mean by interesting attributes? Remember, open it up and take a look. It might just be a bunch of points. That's kind of boring, but inside it, you might have, like this is the habitat data, they're polygons. So it gives you what season, if the habitat is crucial, substantial, there's different rankings for it. So you might be able to go in and symbolize based on one of these attributes and show us the distribution of, spring versus fall habitat for an animal. Okay, if this walks you through, if you don't understand what the values in the attribute table mean or what the headers are describing, that you can just Google it. And so I kind of walk you through that. How do you find out more information about the data if you aren't aware? If you want to play with it a little bit and run some geoprocessing tools like buffering, clipping, erasing, remember the analysis tools tab? You can go in and search for things. You can also use Google to just put in ArcGIS Pro, how do I cut a line using another line, something like that, and then you'll get lots of new options. And then just a refresher on symbolizing based on an attribute. You've done this twice already, at least. So yeah, make the map interesting. And then what we want you to submit isn't a screenshot. We want you to create a formal map. So this means exported to PDF. So it's compressed, no MXD documents. Formal map meaning the title is on the page and it's very deliberately composed, right? You don't need a legend unless a legend is necessary to explain the symbology that you've applied to your attribute. And then a caption figure is another option, but again, it's high resolution, it's not a screenshot, it's cropped, and you still have things like scale if it's needed, a legend if it's needed, but instead of the title being, part of the text hierarchy, it's a caption that you've put in, maybe in Word or something like that, or in PowerPoint. But high resolution, compressed images, okay? And then finally, let's take a look at the rubric. It's very simple. Map quality. So what are you displaying to us? Is there a clear map purpose, which means does the title explain the symbology fully, what and where? Don't include a scale bar if it's not necessary. Don't include a legend if it's not necessary. And north arrows, if you haven't caught on to this yet, north arrows are almost always unnecessary. They just take ink for things that are usually very intuitive. So unless the scale isn't clear from the base map, then you might need a north arrow, a north arrow, if it's not clear that north is up. But in digital maps, north is presumed up all the time. Author and data credits, they're worth 10 points. Don't blow this off. Make sure you appropriately cite the source for your data. And then dynamic base map credits, make sure those are removed and give credit to Esri for the base map if you use one. Those are worth 10 points each, people. Don't blow those off. That's how important they are. Okay, but straightforward, the whole thing's worth 50 points to kind of balance out last week's spatial challenge, and that's it. If you have any questions, let us know.